Okay, let's go. So this is Jürgen from Shining. I promised Greg Swan, who's a member of our Patreon club, to do a run through of the recording and mixing and production chains that I'm using when I'm making music. I do a lot of sax session playing for other artists. So Greg is an artist from New York who has a band called Witnesses, and I played sax on 2 other records. So he's been following us, and he's part of the our Patreon club, which you can join. It's www.patreon.com/shiningnorway. You can join there, and you can get access to these kind of things, and other special things. So he's been following us, and he's seen some of my recording chains, and he was interested in what I was doing. On some stuff I do a lot, on some stuff I don't do a lot, but let's go through some of that stuff now. And to make it even more special for you guys on Patreon, this is a run through where you get a look into a song that we're currently making. So it's a song that's in the works. It's close to being finished, but there's still a few things left to do. We're gonna polish stuff, re-record some stuff, and I'll probably do a whole. Currently, the song is in G sharp minor. I'm probably gonna do another version of the whole song, 2 semitones down in F sharp minor, just to see if it sounds better. It might be easier to sing, but it might not sound as cool. So my main priority right now is to make it sound cool. And if we might actually do G sharp on the record and F sharp minor on the album in our live shows to make it easier. We'll see. It doesn't. I'm not concerned with having. It doesn't have to be the same. Usually on all our other songs, we play the same key live and on the record, but it doesn't have to be like that. Okay, so let's dive into it. This one has saxophone on it. So some of you guys will probably be happy about that. We'll see when you hear it. Okay, so let's check it out. Here's a sax solo. And a fade out, old school fade out on the master. Okay, so that's the ending sax solo. Let's see what we got. It was recorded as everything I do now. If I'd use a mic, I record it with this Slate microphone that I'm actually using right now too, to record what I'm saying. It's a clean modern mic, that doesn't sound too special on its own, but the point of it is that it's got emulations of classic microphones as a software thing that you get with it, along with the usual Slate plugins. That has become my bread and butter. I use it on probably every track, every track within a song. So here's how it looks. There's a trimmer. It's supposed to be, the signal coming in is supposed to be peak at around -12. Sometimes I go above, but it's supposed to stop there to just get a good healthy gain structure inside the plugins going through the chain, so it doesn't clip inside it. So you can fix it here if you didn't fix it on the preamp. There's a clean preamp coming with it, or you can just if it's too hot, you just bounce it down here, or if it's too low, you take it up. That's the same kind of. It's the same thing, but the trimmer gives you a visual cue of how it's going. So it's around where it's supposed to be. Okay, so here's the mics. Those are the kind of main things with the idea of this mic. So here's a 251. You can let's solo it and flick through some mics. If I want to, what I do, which is the magic of this thing, I just load up a preset. I have a couple of presets from songs I've done, and I load them up and I set the gain, and I didn't really set the gain because I know I have one setting for vocals, for loud vocals, one for soft vocals, and one for sax, gain wise. I don't do any EQs and anything when I record. I do it all in my computer. So I just set the gain where I know it's supposed to be, and I start playing. I can start focusing on music, which is what I like, and then I can flick around with the production stuff afterwards. So I don't have to spend valuable time and energy on setting the sound when I'm inspired. When I'm inspired and want to play, I just play, which is really valuable. So here's let's go through some mics that are different. I usually use 251 or the C12 on the sax. If I do sometimes a 67. If I want to do like old school retro sounding sax, I sometimes put on the ribbon. You can check this out now. It's a ribbon C800, a lot brighter. Is a SM7 somewhere here. That's the one I used. C12. If I use a C12, I sometimes use the Blackbird C12. It's a bit smoother and softer. It's really nice. But on this one, I liked what I initially had, 251. It's got the bright, modern or pop sound. It doesn't necessarily, they sound like that back in the 80s too. This is supposed to be an 80s sax. And it goes through a preamp, which I just like on the sax. It gives it some air and some low warmth in the bottom. You can check that out. And there's some stuff going on after this, so it might not be that easy to hear, but that's what it's doing. It helps. And the compressor, that it looks like it's doing a lot, but I've gain matched it, so. So what it does, it just gives all the transients or the beginning of the notes, it gives it a little bit more smack, which I like. So in the mix, it's probably easy to hear. On that, no. It's kind of, I think it makes it sit more constant in the mix. I like it. What's happened with when I started using this mic is that the mic or the emulation, I would say, saturates, kind of distorts a bit, and it also compresses a bit. So I'm actually doing a lot less after starting using that mic, which is really good for me. It makes it much easier. So you can see I choose a mic that has this right kind of EQ. I could have what I could have done, let's say I copy this setting, and let's say I choose a mic that is has a lot less top end. So I can I can choose a mic that doesn't sound as good for the task and then compensate with an EQ, but it's better to just choose a mic that has the right sound to begin with. And if I want more top end, this EQ is pretty nice. I can just crank it. So, but anyway, I'm not, as you see, I'm not using much EQ or 2 dB or something like that. 2 dB. That's kind of it. This compressor I'm not actually using on the sax. We can check it out, but probably doesn't do much. So I'll just take it away. I'm not using it. I sometimes use it to make things sound a little bit more analog. I might use it on the master bus to kind of, but it hardly compresses, but right now I don't. I sometimes on softer sax stuff I use this kind of thing where I cut out harsh frequencies with the dynamic EQ, so it only is cutting when there's a lot of frequencies in that range. On this one I didn't, and it's supposed to be you know, cutting through the mix kind of in a hard way, so I didn't need it, but I usually have it on my saxes, and I almost always have it on my vocals. I'm not sure if I do on this track though, but let's see what it does. So it takes away a little bit of the, you know, harshness here. That kind of thing. But it only does it when when those frequencies are there. So on all the kind of, you know, attacks, those air sounds, it still has those frequencies, and when they accumulate and becomes too much, then it takes it down. Here's like a typical place where, you know, it can build up in the 250 range, which might not be what you want. It makes everything kind of messy and muddy. So you can probably hear it on the beginning phrase, that ascending thing. On the attack, it's that thing. But then I've kind of boosted that range to give it to compensate, to give it some meat and some warmth, while taking it away when there's too much. But again, I didn't use it on this one, so, but I'll leave it in case I need it. Here's just I've probably felt that I wanted to, you know, polish the sax a little bit more, make it a little bit more aggressive, and this New York kind of preamp thing does that. It's kind of like an API style thing. I could have done maybe it's like here. No, where is it? I could have used, you know, API, that one. Let's see if we can hear a difference. That's a little bit fatter, but without. So all of these things accumulate. One thing is doing just a little bit, you don't really hear it, but when you add them, when you have 5 things, 10 things, then they all do a little bit to make it a little bit more professional and, you know, cool sounding. So, and then this is special. This is a vocal rider. It's supposed to be like an automatic fader movement thing that is supposed to be on the vocals. I don't usually use it on vocals, but I do usually use it on the saxophone. After the sax is kind of compressed and, you know, slammed, it might feel a little bit flat. So this one kind of breathes life into it. It does a good job of, you know, pulling it up when it needs to be pulled up, and pulling it down when it needs to be pulled up. I don't use it that much. 3 dB max plus and 3 dB minus. So it has a range of 6 dB, but it usually doesn't do more than a dB up or down. Let's see what it does. You can see here what it does. My minus half, plus half, plus 1.4. You can see, at least in, you know, in the beginning it does a lot. That first phrase pulls it up by 1.5 dB. So that's what I'm using that for. I'm doing something special here. I almost never dub the saxophone because it has so much high frequency content and it just sounds chorusy when I do it. But I felt like this high phrase needed something cool, you know. So I did a couple of takes on that sax solo, and I used one of the other takes as a dub. So it just sounds bigger. With the same settings, I think I probably matched the timing of it, so you can see I moved the beginning, so the beginning of this is something that's cool with Cubase. So I could have moved it, you know, so they're super tight. I just went in and made sure that they didn't sound too different. I might have pitched a few things to make him, you know, so it doesn't wobble too much. Let's see if I did that. If I can see it. That's here. No, so I didn't pitch anything. But you know, if it was off, I would have pitched it so it's closer to the one that it's supporting. Yeah, so that's it for the sax. And one more important thing is that you know, the effects that I'm using on the aux sends. I'm using a spread, which is a micro pitch shift. It's kind of like an eventide effect, but it's a plugin from Soundtoys. This is just stereo enhanced. It's really just to make everything mono before it goes into the plugin. That's probably because I was sending some stuff from a stereo track, and it ended up, you know, if it was panned to the right, it goes through the thing and then it comes back at the right, and I wanted this kind of effect just to be in the middle, like a stereo spread in the middle. So that's why I did that. I usually don't do that, but if I need to, I do that. But here's the effect. And I almost always use the number 3 there. Sounds cool. I don't fuck with this if I don't have to. Sometimes if it is too kind of slappy, if you can hear those transients, let's say there's a percussive instrument I'm using, I tighten it up so it's quicker. But on this one, I don't. That's how I use it. Let me show you how it sounds. Without it, just loses the kind of 80s sound. with. So alone it sounds a little bit plastic, but in the mix, what this kind of thing does, and it does it on vocals and synths and all sorts of stuff, it kind of blends it into, if there's electronic type instruments or guitars or whatever, it blends it into that kind of world of sounds. Obviously it helps with the reverb and the delay, but the spread is super important. So when I start a project, I always start with a couple of standard effects, and then I add effects if I need to. So I start with the spread, I start with the reverb, usually kind of like a plate type reverb. It's usually, this is a vocal reverb that I used on Animal. It says here, and it's a setting that I saved. Probably a plate, I'm not really sure. And then Echo Boy, Santos Echo Boy delay. It always works. I've added the black hole, probably on some vocals, and I guess you can see this is my church verse vocals reverb that I saved. I have another one. I don't know why I have two, but it sounds a little bit different, and it's used on a different part of the song. This is something that I used on Fight Song. I save stuff I like and just use it, so I don't have to spend time on searching for stuff. I needed a snare reverb, so I added one. Here's a special one. So the one I start with is really just the spread, a straight reverb, and a delay. That's my main thing. I usually also have a black hole if I need it ready, but I don't. It's not used that much. ADT is a spread that I use that doesn't add. It's quicker, so it doesn't have that kind of slappiness for more percussive stuff in it. You can see 2 milliseconds before and after. That's much less than the micro pitch shift, I think. This is a special. This is a reverb I don't usually use, but I use it on this one because it needs some kind of 80s sound on some toms that I'm gonna play for you. Those toms are called 80s toms. And this is I think that you had some old 80s hardware reverbs that had a setting called non-linear reverb. So this is how it sounds. So let's see if I can show you send a little bit more of the reverb. Full on. Yeah, so that's the reverb. I don't know where it was, but it doesn't matter. It needs to be more. Okay, so let's take a look at some vocals. I'm using the same mic on the vocals. It makes my life much easier with this mic. Let's see if I can find. Let's do the first verse. I was born inside the belly of the thousand stars, running wild through the dawn. I was born through snow and ice, forever running wild with demon eyes. I'm a nature's child. Okay, here we go. It's sort of the same starting point as the sax. But yesterday I went through this. I actually did a test thing for this video yesterday, and I went through it and I flicked through some mics, and I found another mic that I think works really well. So let's compare it. This is probably I usually have a lot more plugins, but with this, as I said, with this mic, I've started being able to use less So I'll show you some vocals later where I have a lot, but it's not unusual if I have 10 plugins here. This Futzbox is only used on the second verse. These other ones are not being used on this sound, but it's used if I use the other microphone. Let's skip through some microphones here first.
I was born inside the belly of 1,000 stars, running wild through the dawn.
They weren't really that different. Let's check out the let's check out the other mic that this one, the C800, and I'm gonna. It's a bit more pop sounding, much more high end, a little bit less of the low mids. And I did try with a de-esser, but to remove some of the highs, but I ended up wanting to boost some mids, and so I did this kind of dynamic EQ thing instead. Check it out.
Born inside the belly of 1,000 stars, running wild through the dawn.
So you can see that it pulls down on the S's and the high stuff. And what I did also, I thought I wanted to have a little bit more, I thought that mic compressed less than the old 47 tube mics, so I added a compression with 70%, 60% mix, and this V76 old tube preamp, and a little bit of gain, 1 dB. Let's see how that sounds to make it more in your face.
Born inside the belly of 1,000 stars, running wild through the dawn. I was born through snow and ice, forever running wild. I was demonized, I'm a nature's child. It's been a million years.
So those are two. This is the cool thing about this mic thing, that I can just record my vocals, and then I can worry about the sound later. I can focus on the performance and do the sound later. So what I also do, I have this LA2A thing, which it does compress, but it's more of a distortion thing for me, and a more of a mid-range presence thing.
Born inside the belly of 1,000 stars, running wild through.
All these kind of air sounds becomes better in this one. And this Devil Lock is also a really nice thing. It's actually pretty hard now. I usually have it on 20%. This is kind of 50%. It pulls down, this is a really old school dirty compressor, but I love it. It makes everything sound more analog and dirty. Check it out.
Born inside the belly of 1,000 stars, running wild.
Full on. Yeah, so it's it doesn't, as you could hear now, the okay, so that's it for today. I hope you liked it. I'd be happy to make more of these kind of videos. So if there's something in particular you want me to cover, let me know in the comment section, either on this video on YouTube or whatever it is, or on our Patreon site that you can join. We're a struggling band, so we need your help. We need your support to keep going, to make music, to tour, and it'll help us make music, tour, and also make more of these kind of videos. So you can go there to join and let us know what you want to see. It's at www.patreon.com/ShiningNorway. And we're gonna do our best to write a lot of new music very soon. So see you next time. Bye.